Fuck. Alright. Hello everyone and welcome to the pilot episode of the Speakeasy. I almost missed the name there. Our new podcast format. I'm Luís, aka Sparslap, and today I'm joined by Jim Going Dry Servac.
Yep, going in dry, boys.
Angry Local Man who's sick of EA shit, TDB Tyler.
Oh, for fuck's sake, give away the topics.
And everyone's cup of tea, mugs of tea.
She goes silent. For anyone who's not listened to this before, it's the girl.
It's the girl.
It's the girl.
See, I like the new intro.
It's just weird when I intro, everyone goes silent, so I figured I might as well just go silent.
You were the one that made it awkward.
Yours was literally the only one that was a compliment.
To what?
Yeah, literally.
I know it was, and I was okay with that. That's why I remained silent, because if you were mean to me, I would have yelled at you. So,
Oh, then we know what to do then.
don't be mean to me.
Hey Vic, you suck.
Thanks.
Vic's got
I
enough
do
problems
suck.
right now.
I'm sucking this water bottle.
I don't know where to go from here.
I was gonna say, it's probably not what she wants to be sucking.
I want to be sucking a lollipop.
Look,
Like
it's
a Tootsie.
been a long time.
Take you to the candy shop.
I'll let you lick the lollipop.
I
Don't you stop.
can't even do a 50-cent impression right now.
Damn, you hit the spot. Oh!
Oh?
Don't forget the O's, boys.
I like how it's going already.
Alright.
I don't even know what the topic is for today. I just kind of showed up and was like, let's do this, bitches.
You'll find out.
Read the Discord chat.
You read. Me, you think I read. No, I don't. I just assume everything revolves around me and then I go with it.
Okay. Before we go to our topic, should we do an icebreaker?
Yes, because the audience will then learn what we're like. They haven't got an idea already.
I'm just trying to go through the process here, man.
I feel like...
the stuff we talked beforehand.
Yeah, no, I feel like we're going through relapse because we haven't done a podcast in literally a year, maybe even longer than that. And now you've got us all in the same room and it's all spilling out, you know. I blame
because
Vic.
we don't have a Left 4 Dead to like act as a buffer.
Yeah.
You know? So
Oh, and as for cast, TJ couldn't make it. It was going to be all the admins, but he's busy.
what
And
is
Vic
he
was
doing?
busy. He's
Doing more
schooling.
important shit than this, apparently.
Or
I'm
furiously
schooling
masturbating.
too. What do you think I'm doing while I'm
TJ's
you,
apparently
idiot.
schooling harder. I don't know.
apparently?
I don't know what TJ does.
Me either.
Don't tell him I said that.
I'm convinced he like
You know, it's
doesn't
not like it's
exist
being
anymore.
recorded.
I'm literally convinced he doesn't exist anymore. I think he's just a figment of our imagination.
Now we
He
need
just merged with the hurricane.
I
TJ
think
to
he
be on the
did.
next one.
I
Now.
think he did merge with the hurricane. I think he became the hurricane when the hurricane happened. And just, I mean, we haven't heard or seen from him since. And he claims he's okay, but I don't think he really is okay. I think there's something seriously wrong with him.
TJ, if you're kidnapped, blink once. If you're not kidnapped, blink twice.
Victoria's holding a knife to you. Blink 4 times. What?
Just here.
I told you I'll feed you later. Yeah.
That was so loud. Sorry, for the audience that just heard a beep. Luís, you motherfucker!
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get the shit out of me!
That wasn't on purpose.
I didn't hear a beep.
He sent me
I
something.
sent something to Tyler.
Oh, okay. I was also way
Ugh.
too busy, like, getting really into my conversation about how TJ has Stockholm Syndrome with me.
Getting into character.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Right.
Basically.
Character.
Huh?
Wink.
To make it more open, he was asking about, oh, should we skip the icebreaker? I don't mind, you're the host.
You don't have to say those things, goddammit.
No, but why just send it to me? I
Right?
don't make decisions, I edit.
Oh my
Alright.
I don't make decisions, I edit. Isn't that making decisions?
I mean, no. I just delete shit I don't
Editor,
like.
not a decisioner,
Look,
damn it.
It's
Alright.
a pilot episode. We're still figuring stuff out. I might as well first explain to the audience what's going on, and
Luís
then
is figuring
we'll
shit
do
out.
the rest of the thing.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, he doesn't have a fucking clue.
No, I do.
I like how
We're
Luís has become
carrying
John
this.
Reisinger. He's literally trying to be a host, and he's like, oh, shit. I can hear it in the sides.
It's not fucking perfect. Fuck.
Alright, so we have decided to try to bring back the podcast, but not in the way that it was working the last time. You know, we're trying to make it a little different, which is now the Speakeasy. And we're gonna try to have topics and certain segments to the show, such as what we were calling the Icebreaker. So I propose we do a little bit of a Would You Rather before we get into the main topic. What do you guys say?
Alright.
I've got a good would you rather question, because I was
Alright,
looking
go
it up
ahead.
in
Let's hear it.
advance.
You go first.
I don't have
Right.
any, so.
Icebreaker theme goes here. Da-da-da. Okay.
Icebreaker!
God. Would you rather never be able to open your mouth, or never be able to close your eyes?
Ooh.
Fuck.
I told you it was a good
So
one.
where did you get this?
Open my
Shit.
mouth.
I can't take credit for it. Wait, never be able to open your mouth?
Never be
Yeah.
able to open your mouth or never be able to close your eyes.
Yeah,
open
that's
my
it.
mouth. Never be able to open my mouth.
You wouldn't be
Fuck
able to eat.
Hell, dude.
I mean, they.
Never have to
I'm
suck
in
dick
nursing
again
school.
either, so-
I can figure out ways to keep myself nourished. There are other
Did you?
ways.
Ah, yeah.
But no, that bothers me that I wouldn't be able to close my eyes.
Yeah, that would.
It just really bugs me.
I think. Well, the question is, would your eyes dry out if they were open all the time?
Yeah.
Like,
It is what it
Do
is.
you mean voluntarily? Like, you'd never be able to voluntarily close your eyes.
No, it just says never be able to close your eyes. So that's
And
You
that-
could use eye
as is.
drops.
No.
Yeah, that
You
would
would
be
need to
way,
stockpile
way,
them.
way inconvenient.
And then you could, but if you can't close your eyes, you can't blink, which helps lubricate your eye.
right,
put
that's
the eye
that's
drops
the
in.
point. Is like
Yeah.
if it's,
So no, I'll
if you're
take
talking
the
about-
not being able to eat.
I say it's talking about if it's a voluntary close your eyes, then that's one thing because you're blinking is kind of an involuntary action. So if that's the case where I can never voluntarily close my eyes, I would just not close my eyes voluntarily.
But you guys
Fine with
wouldn't
me.
be on the podcast. Oh,
I'm
actually,
not
yeah,
sure
that's a
I'd
good
be
point.
upset with Vic not being on the podcast.
You know
Like
what?
a lot of people.
God.
Whatever.
If I had to pick, I'd pick the eyes option, because I think if they were to dry out, then I could just use eye drops. It would be bothersome, but, you know, at least I'll be able to talk and eat.
My vision is like it's way too important to me, so I definitely would have to have my eyes.
Well, mine too. It doesn't mean you're going to go blind, just that you can close your eyes.
Yeah. Well, that's way no. That'd be massively inconvenient. I'm with Vic. You could find a way to like intravenously like sustain yourself. You know, you don't. I would have to pick the not opening my mouth option.
Hmm.
Tyler, what about
I don't think
you?
it would upset Vic at all if I shut up all the time.
No,
I'd like-
not really.
I was going to go with the whole idea of not being able to close your eyes. I feel like I like eating too much you know, to do the other one. But they make a good point.
Oh, no more fucking tea. How about that, Vic?
That's
I
fine.
That's fine.
Well, I mean,
That's fine.
there are other ways. She has it like an IV strapped up. So straight
You
into
don't
the
know what I
system.
do.
It's like I wouldn't be able to drink a coffee, but trust me, I could get that shit in my system.
Osmosis.
Osmosis, exactly. That's how I educate myself. I just stick my textbook under my pillow and sleep on it. Literally.
No pillow, just straight
You know
to the
what?
textbook.
Fuck it. It's never going to happen. So I would actually say never be able to close your eyes. I've been told I'm hypervigilant anyway, so that would just help. Everyone's like, what the fuck does that mean?
I'd say hyper what? I didn't know if you said vigilant or vigilant.
Motherfucker. When I said that word in the past, a family member of mine said, did you say vigilant or vigilant? And then I realised I had a very tough time.
That's
Vigil,
right,
with a G.
Because we were talking about eyes. If we hadn't been talking about eyes, I wouldn't have thought you were making up a word.
Yeah, but... Yeah. I would go with never be able to close your eyes. It would suck, but I just prefer eating through my mouth and stuff. So I don't think Luís answered.
I did. I said the eye option.
See, the better option here. 50-50 split. Both
Only
you two
open
said,
your mouth halfway and only close one eye. Is that it?
You choose both. That was my would you rather. I don't know if you guys want to do another one or call it there.
I think one's fine.
Yeah, I think one's fine. No,
Oh, come on. I had one lined up.
well, then you do it then.
I was
just
thinking
don't
about
have one.
everyone do one, but sure, I'll go ahead. This wasn't my creation. I saw this online, but holy fucking shit. Would you rather smell like a fart all the time for the rest of your life, or drink a diarrhea milkshake?
What?
Just once?
God, man.
Just
No,
once.
no. You know what? Just kill me
Yeah.
now. No.
Right, no,
I'm
I'd rather
done.
just... Yeah, you wouldn't be alive very long
No, I'm good.
if you drank a diarrhea milkshake.
Just kill me.
Yeah, well, you'd be killing yourself if you did that, so...
No, I'm good. No, none. Neither. I quit.
Just both are gross. Milkshake one has very bad negative effects on your health.
Oh, please. Modern medicine is here for that.
I probably vomit all the time.
Other medicine?
Modern.
Oh, modern. Okay. Fuck, I can't hear y'all today. So long as I
Should-
talk to y'all, I just can't figure out your accents.
Yeah, too British.
I have that same problem too with Jim.
Yeah, she really doesn't know what the fuck I'm saying sometimes.
What?
Right, like
Can
right
you-
now.
Can you say that? What? I had no idea what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Luís, I would hate to say it, but I'm not answering that one.
We're all
come
just
on.
like,
I
no.
say it's too much. It's like it's like one is literally killing you, and the other is like
Literally killing you.
yeah. The other is just you'd be shunned from society unless you move to some place that has atrocious hygiene.
Yeah, if it had no negative impact on your health, then the milkshake would be my option, just because of the whole... You would never interact with anybody again. You could never work
Fine. If
in
it's
public.
just a diarrhea-flavored milkshake, then...
Well, then that's
These
fine.
guys are just bitching
Diarrhea flavored. Man, that would be tough, but it's like if it meant I didn't have to smell like shit for the rest of my life, I mean I'd do it once. But only
Exactly.
once.
Yeah, it's only once.
You
Yeah,
just-
the easy answer.
Just don't taste it.
Hold your nose.
Right.
Oh wait, according to the last Would You Rather, Jim and Vic wouldn't have to taste it because they can't open their mouths. So, huh.
I suppose you're right. I mean, they had it like an enema. It would be natural, right? I regret saying that on a recording already.
All right, so let's go to the main topic.
Yes.
Yeah, can we get to being mad
So,
about
over
something
the
else?
past few months, I believe, we have seen EA taking a huge hit because of all their business practices and the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2 debacle. And I was wondering if you guys would like to discuss that today. You know, evil business practices, why EA
Oh,
is
boy.
literally the devil, and yeah, sorry, Tyler?
I just said, oh boy, in a devilish fashion, because
Oh boy.
let me count the ways that company right now has pissed me off.
That's what to say. This is kind of what's getting this all started. So, yeah, I'm willing. I'm okay with having Tyler have at it.
I mean, you guys can go more into detail about the Star Wars stuff, the more current stuff that happened, that got like worldwide news. Even didn't it go into law at one point? Didn't like Hawaii sue them or something? I don't know how it works.
Really
I don't
looked
know.
into it.
But yeah, you guys are probably going to know more about that than me, because I've just never played the Star Wars games. Blasphemy. But when it got personal was
When it got personal. Here we go.
it got
I
personal.
felt personally attacked by E EA.
I'll start at the beginning. Basically,
EA sent Tyler a letter. Tyler, you suck.
they broke up with me. No,
Send him a Dear John letter.
I've always defended EA and their sports stuff, because everyone says, "Oh, it's just the same game every year," and they just add minuscule things. And I get it; it is very minuscule, But they do their research. There is graphical improvements each time. They've actually done something, you know. Sometimes they've changed the engine, and the people working behind it do a great job. But I had to get an achievement on not the new one, FIFA 18. I was playing FIFA 17 just to get the achievement things that you can get as a manager, where you take a team through an entire season. Long story short, I go through an entire season to get my team promoted. I've made a decent amount of profit. Reading FC, my hometown, they get 20 million and a half profit in one season, which is really good for, of course, going to the Premier League. New season starts and that money is gone.
Oh.
And I go online and I'm like, okay, was that a glitch? Because there were some weird glitchy happenings where, like,
Taxes.
it was like some players would be commentated on with the wrong name. Like Tammy Abraham was called Aluko at some points, and I was like, I don't have Aluko in my team, you know? So what's going on? So at first, I was going to give EA the benefit of the doubt. I was pissed, but maybe it was a corrupt file. So I do a brand new season. I'm like, it can't happen again. Was checking for the same glitches, nothing happening. Nothing out of the ordinary. Everything's fine. I get promoted again. Same thing happens. Your funds every season get reset to what you started the game with. So if, like me, you play some of those games for fun and you take like a really low league team up to the Premier League, like Accrington Stanley or something, they will constantly, no matter how good your team is, go back to their initial funds. I'm glad I found out the way I did, just through Reddit, because some people have won like every tournament imaginable and lost 200 million the very next day, like when the next season started. The thing I find ironic about this is EA. Like, money's the only thing they think about, so how did they fuck this up? You know? Beyond that, there's like literally handfuls of other reasons why I'm now considering boycotting them for good. Like, they can't even get a football game right.
So this
Can't
is
get
like
anything right.
This sounds more like an issue you have with like this aspect of the game design, and not so much like an EA business practices complaint.
Not really, but every other game has got it right from them.
But the thing is, it's the sort of thing that I believe it was Tyler who.
Sorry for cutting you off, but who the fuck programs a game where funds don't get carried over to the next season?
Well, my question is, because I've never played any of these FIFA games, so can you like buy an in-game like add-on that allows you to carry your funds over season to season?
No, but you can buy in the thing a way to pump up your funds for that season. That apparently will just disappear next season.
You can buy like in-game cash.
Kind of, yeah. But
so,
if you do that, you're a scrub.
So, you know, maybe they don't really care because I don't know. I'm spitballing here. But
what, are you saying that EA doesn't care?
Let me make my point. Maybe they don't give a shit because there are enough people buying. You know, paying real money to get back the game money. If I'm not mistaken, that game has been out for a while now, right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to get achievements on a game I own.
Oh no,
you know?
I
and
get
it's
it.
fucking broken.
What I'm saying is, maybe they will fix it on the next iteration.
I'm not buying.
2019?
Yeah.
I'm not going out to buy FIFA 18 just to hope that the single player works. Oh dear God, EA, please fix your single player.
I'll buy a whole nother game if you do.
Yeah, I'll buy a fully priced game. Fuck off. Like, okay, let me count some other things that they've done. Of course, we've got the Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box system. You know, the whole monetization and their Reddit post that garnered, what was it, 670,000 downvotes?
Yeah, that was in a hurry. Yeah, that's a whole. That's really, you can really unpack that fairly deeply.
Yeah, and they did the same thing for Need for Speed Payback, which is something it just didn't need.
Need for Speed. Did I need-
2013, they released Dungeon Keeper Mobile, and it led to a controversy that if people rated it, if people rated it like when it asks out of 5 stars, if they rated it 5 out of 5, it will count as an Apple approved rating. If it wasn't, if someone just said 4 out of 5 stars, it never got shown as an Apple thing. So their game looked amazing.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Are you
so
shitting me?
What a dick move.
How did they manage that?
I take it back. It doesn't say if it's anything to do with Apple, but whatever software it was on, it was doing this weird fraudulent manipulating.
Yeah, it's like we're going to show
iOS
the
or Android,
votes
but
that
how do
favor
you-
us.
How do you
Yes.
manage that, though?
You got Ultima 9, which was made a while ago. I was a fan of that series. They bought it out for the 9th series. The game was full of bugs and didn't continue the story to the point of insulting every fan of it. Spoilers for a really old game coming up. In Ultima 8, I think it's Ultima 8, not too sure, but one of the characters is like a companion throughout all the rest of the story, sacrifices himself for your character, and he's a paladin. In Ultima 9, one of the first lines that's uttered from the main character is, "What's a paladin?" It's like,
Oh my god.
yeah, did you not look over the story at all?
It's
Nope.
like, who's this guy who's just chasing me all over, yelling stuff?
You also
Like he
got
jumps in front of a bullet for me and fuck you, weirdo.
You also got the voice actor strike. That wasn't just EA. That was a lot of different places like Activision, Blind Light. But EA was involved in that, where they would overwork their voice actors to the point of some of them reporting that their throats were bleeding, like Steve Bloom and stuff like that. 2004, they did something similar where employees were working ridiculous hours. It was like mandatory to work nearly 100 hours per week, 7 days a week. And to finish it, everyone remembers the debacle with SimCity, where they launched a full price game and they didn't have the servers to back it up.
Nice.
And throughout all of this, I checked their stocks recently, and for the last 5 years, it's done nothing but going up. So, fuck knows how it happens.
It was probably because the investors were like, "Oh, well, they're continuing to make money, so."
I'm
People
amazed.
were like getting whipped. Really? Wow.
I just don't understand. The gamers out there know this happens.
And that was sarcasm, by the way.
no, but
See, but the thing
gamers
is,
know this. So why do they keep buying their products? It's so weird to me.
I don't know that a lot of people who most people who just sit down and play a game, especially sports-related games, give a shit about a lot of the stuff that happens. In addition, I mean, EA's, when it comes to the FIFA stuff, they have massive tournaments that they have with a large number of the FIFA games. I don't know about all of them, but I mean, they're making money hand over fist. I mean, this is why one of my issues with the Star Wars Battlefront 2 debacle is that EA's lying to somebody, either lying to us or lying to their investors about what happened with the monetization of the game. I don't know. I just financially speaking, it's a very strange situation, but I just don't know that most gamers who play the FIFA games really care.
I know that's true, but
Battlefront, though, didn't they lose a shit ton of money?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like Disney put a dent in them, but
Oh yeah, Disney.
they're just going to get that money back.
They were afraid it was going to damage the franchise. I mean, Disney's doing plenty fine on their own without EA's help.
I mean, let me put it this way: like, I've seen video game companies getting blasted for little things. Like they'll have one controversy a decade, but that controversy gets worldwide news. The fingers are pointed at them, and people are like, being very Tumblr about it. Let's just say, I don't know.
This internet outrage in general.
That was within the course of like not that long. And it's like stuff that would have crushed any other smaller companies out there. It's amazing to me that they get away with so much.
Well, I think a big thing about, and this is, I think I mentioned this, I think I've at least said it to Vic. I don't know, y'all may have all been in on this conversation, but EA kind of put itself in a bad spot with Battlefront 2. And I know Vic's rage is coming, so I'm going to try to meter that. I'm going to try to a little bit beforehand in saying that EA has definitely made its own bed and it's got a lie in it, so it definitely has deserved what it got. However, I think a lot of this is basically EA made a bad decision in trying to be the exclusive publisher for the Star Wars brand.
Which,
EA
when I heard the news,
is a
was
publisher,
shattering.
it's not a developer. So it has to put money up front, and then they get other developers to make the game, and then they because they're the ones putting up a lot of the money, they then have to basically bend to the game to get what effectively amounts to microtransactions. I think that EA put itself in a bad spot because of that. That doesn't excuse them. It just means that they made really piss poor business decisions, and as a result of it, they've got a deal.
And what sucks is that sometimes the developers are well-intentioned, like they want to make a good game, but since EA wants to put its grubby little greedy hands on everything, they go for like predatory business practices and just shitting all over their fan base. And sometimes that also reflects poorly on the developers themselves.
And they close places like, was it Visceral? I can't
they
remember.
shut
got closed recently.
It's like,
Yeah,
are you
they
kidding?
were making a single player Star Wars game,
Which
and
looked great, by the way.
Yeah, well, the little piece of it that we had, but there's a bit of other controversy that goes into that, because they said that it took them something like 2 months just to make that little clip that we saw at E3, and it's like, what kind of, where are your developers? What are they doing? And it's obviously they've got their developers basically contracted to work on the other more popular AAA titles like Battlefront 2. EA is definitely a greedy company. Don't misunderstand. But I don't know that it's pure greed that's driving them. Like, I think that's what a lot of people say is, Luís is, with his, they've got their grubby, greedy hands all over it, and that's all there is. And it's like, I don't think that that's all there is to it. But that being said, to Luís's point, at one of their investor meetings, EA said that the loss of the microtransaction system in Battlefront 2, they didn't expect to affect their yearly earnings by more than 1%. And it's like, okay, well, if it's not going to affect your earnings that much, then why have it in the game at all?
I know.
So that's my point, that they're lying to somebody. They're either lying to us or they're lying to their investors.
In the end, this is going to sound like me pussyfooting a little bit. I'm still kind of boycotting them, but like, well, I guess you can't say kind of in that regard. But I wouldn't mind if it hasn't happened over and over and over again as well. Like,
right.
I was someone who...
Go ahead,
sorry. I was someone who bought SimCity and couldn't play it for ages. It just sucked. I was someone who saw firsthand and wasted... that FIFA game isn't quick. You're talking about around a month to get to the end of the season. It was 12 minutes per match, about 50 plus games in the season, including cup games and stuff in the training, the managerial stuff in between. You're telling me that an experienced company can't code the funds to carry over to the next season? You got that. You've got so many other things that have impacted me from their company. I want to be on their side. They make good stuff, and then they shoot themselves in the foot over and over again with their decisions, and it's like, I can't.
Right.
Fool me once, shame on
Yeah,
everyone.
shame on you. Yeah. Well, this comes down to, this is the result of, for any number of games, the free-to-play model. Which the problem here is that a lot of these games are not free to pay. They're free to play. You got to buy into them just to play them.
Exactly.
But it's the DLC sales model has been so successful with so many other franchises. There's no reason to think that it wouldn't continue to be successful. So the market has kind of basically built this to encourage EA that, hey, this is okay and it's acceptable and there's nothing wrong with it, and we can do it for anything and everything that we want. So
that sort of ties in with a bigger problem in the gaming industry that is not just EA, but the huge focus shift to multiplayer.
Because that's where the money is.
Yeah, microtransactions, loot boxes, whatever, even if you pay like $60 for a game, technically you're not obligated, but it's there, you can buy extra shit to give you an edge against other people. And that's, like you said, Jim, that's where the money is. And so they are just abandoning the single player stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What Tyler is saying, for a single player campaign, that's a game breaking bug. It's a source of that once they realize they should work around the clock to release a fix for that, a patch, but they didn't. At least so far they didn't. And,
no, they've given up on it now.
I was about to say,
the next one's come out.
FIFA 2017. They're already working on the next one.
Yeah.
I was only playing the old one.
I
was only playing the old one for an achievement that I hadn't got yet, and then I just said fuck it.
And then another company, I'm not going to get into all the points about Rockstar, because they also have some stuff that is okay, but GTA Online, they didn't release any sort of DLC for the single player. Apparently there was something planned, but once they saw that the multiplayer was making a lot of revenue because people kept buying the GTA money, they decided to focus on that. And nowadays, anything costs over $1 million. And to grind that $1 million with in-game missions and all that, it takes forever. However, you can just swipe your credit card and get $1 million right there on the spot for a few real dollars,
I can just imagine Vic is rocking back and forth listening to us. Are you alive?
Unleash thy rage.
What the rage? I don't know.
She wasn't listening.
I said this. No, I was listening. I've said this multiple times. I just think the idea of asking somebody to pay $60, between $60 and $90, $100 game to not have everything unlocked, that was the thing that really pissed me off with Battlefront 2, was not even your favorite characters were unlocked. You already had to put in, not only did you have to invest money, but you had to invest an obscene amount of time. And for someone like me who goes to school full time, or even somebody who works full time, or just normal people in general, who has that amount of time to put into unlocking a character, or in characters as iconic as Luke and Darth Vader? That's just I don't know what to say to that besides it's just cruel. You're saying unless you have the time and the money, or unless you have the money, because you could unlock Luke and Vader without putting in the time. It's just you're at a significant disadvantage just because you don't have the time or the cash to put into it. And that's the thing that drives me insane with all of these unlock the cooler, better things. Cosmetics, it doesn't bother me as much because cosmetics are cosmetics. But when you're talking about an actual playable character, are you kidding me? I'm not putting that much money into this video game and then be told I can't unlock. I can't play who I want to play because I haven't had the ability to invest it. And that was the thing that really disappointed me with Destiny, and I will not buy from Bungie anymore, is that I paid 60 something and I pre-ordered this. I pre-ordered a $60 game and got 8 hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
And then everyone kept telling me, "Oh yeah, it gets better with the DLCs." Each DLC was $20.
It should be better now.
In total, you're paying, and there was how many DLCs? There was 3 or 4 of them. So
I don't know.
Destiny?
First Destiny, it was 4 of them.
I think it was, I want to say 3, but you might be right. It might be 4.
Okay, let's just go with 4. Let's go a little high. But 20, 40, 60, 80. So that's another $80 on top of $60 you already paid. That's $140 for a game that is finally quote-unquote complete. What the why? That's absolutely insanity. I expect if I want to play a game, I want to play Horizon Zero Dawn or The Witcher or The Last of Us. I want to be able to play a game that is good, that has a great story, that yes, it's $60 and it's 8-hour gameplay, but if I don't want to just run through the game, I can sit and dick around.
Yeah.
That idea of like there's like Skyrim. Like the idea that there's more in the game than just these 2 hours that you can play and then that's it. And I don't mind paying for DLC. I think DLC can be really great. I think it can add so much more to the game. I've talked about The Witcher a lot, and I really love the 2 expansions, DLCs that they added on. They just added so much to the story, but they felt like it was another like $20 for both of them, and it was like I felt like I got my money's worth out of it.
Yeah,
While
it wasn't.
With a lot of these other DLCs or whatever, I'm not getting my money's worth out of it.
It sounds like Witcher actually gave you another story, whereas Destiny gave you, here's how the story actually ends.
Yes.
It's like, no.
Hearts of Stone, for example, in terms of map, it was sort of small because it was the same map, but like they expanded a little area. But the story itself was great. It lasted for hours. You know, there's
it was like an
bunch
8-hour
of
play.
Yeah, it was a bunch of new resources, new weapons, outfits, etc. Blood and Wine was like a whole other new game. Like, it was another map, shit ton of new stuff to put on Geralt. You know, it was a great storyline that lasted a lot, a bunch of side quests. You know, I think CD Projekt Red did DLC right. Like, it wasn't just DLC, it was an expansion pack. DLC, like the minor stuff, they gave for free, like outfits or weapons and stuff like that, you know? Like the Nilfgaardian set or the Temerian set, I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, but the only problem was you had to like sit there and like download every single one. But yeah, a lot of the like DLC was given out for free, and they just said, "Here you go." Like, we added this on. It was nice too because you could like pick and choose what you wanted. Like, if you really didn't want it, you could just be like, I don't want this. But they also like had free like quests.
Yeah.
They're like, here's the base game. Oh, FYI, there's like 5 extra quests you can get. You're like, what? Okay.
Decent quest too. It wasn't just a fetch quest or like choose the right answer.
Like one where they like all turned into pigs and no one could figure out why.
Yeah. Like that wasn't a fast quest. Like that took a little bit of thinking. There was some lore behind it. You know, it wasn't half-assed.
Imagine living half-assed. Like, you could never sit down.
Would you rather live half-assed or buy EA games?
Live half-assed.
Half-assed.
Isn't that the same thing, though?
Yeah, right.
No, it's being half-assed or buying half-assed content.
But you see, Vic raises a great point. Because from what I understand that you're saying, Vic, there are games that you're okay with paying full price because they give you back your money's worth. So, you know, you get plenty of gameplay time.
Yeah.
And I think that I've realized moving to PC as my primary gaming platform, which, by the way, is a whole other subject. But anyway, I realized that achievements have become less important for me now. You know, and then with that, I realized that achievements usually are a way to expand a game's shelf life. You know, the amount of time you put into that game, because a lot of achievements nowadays are grinding related.
Sounds
so,
kinky.
You know, kill like a fuck ton of zombies so you can unlock 20 gamer score or something like that.
Gears of War, seriously.
Yeah, like Dead Rising 3 had one of those that takes forever. But
didn't you just go up and down the tunnels where all the zombies were? Just move them all down with the car.
It takes forever, you know.
True.
But the thing is, I feel like they also do that with games nowadays. They release something half-assed or like really with a really small gameplay value, but then they're like, oh, but the real stuff you got to put in like dozens of hours to unlock. So you want to play as Luke Skywalker?
Yeah, like
Bitch, you better have some water, some food, and like a full week free, because that's gonna take a full week.
So
you know?
can I interject here?
Yeah, I was
Jim
just-
wanted to
I was
for a
just giving
while.
an example of Luke.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's completely
Yeah,
accurate,
no. It's
but hold
fine.
on,
No,
just a little bit. Destiny is the same thing. Like, you gotta pay for the DLC to have a full story, and if you want to have that competitive edge against people, because the story, first of all, it's incomplete and it sucks. Second, at least the first game without DLC and all that shit. Second of all, if you want to be competitive, you gotta put in a lot of hours to unlock like the big guns. But yeah, go ahead.
Gabahorn.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the old man in the room here for a second and say, back in my day, if there was a character you wanted in a video game and you wanted to unlock it, you would work for it. We called that grinding. So,
Grind on. No.
my issue with the Luke and Vader thing was that they set the bar really high for Luke and Vader, and I think that they put it a little too high because you have to work way too hard to get them. But the flip side of it, because Muggsy said that to get these characters, there's basically people who can get an unfair advantage by buying these characters. But in the case of Luke and Vader specifically, they're not unfairly advantaged characters. They don't break the game by having them. So if one team has a Luke and a Vader, you can definitely still lose, not because a person on the other team is exceptionally good or because you're exceptionally bad. They're remarkably well-balanced characters. And for all of Battlefront, my issue with everything that's happened with Battlefront 2 is that, the leveling and grinding system aside with the loot boxes and not being able to choose how you want to develop your classes or your characters, this is an incredibly well-made game. I mean, that's the problem behind it. But I'm getting off the point I was actually going to make, which is I think we're going to see more and more in the future the larger companies who can't afford to make, basically games that people get a one-time $60 purchase from. I mean, y'all talk about, CD Projekt Red and other companies and these other games where they're almost, the Witcher series is not an indie title at this point. But CD Projekt Red is still a pretty small company in comparison to somebody like EA. I think we're really going to start seeing this shift where if you're looking for these very well-developed single-player stories that build a universe that's very rich, you're probably going to be getting it from smaller developers. I mean, I've been playing a number of indie games lately that are remarkably good games, and I really think that's where the market is going to go. And I think you're going to see companies like EA and Activision, I think you're going to see it all move away from these massive single-player experiences. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mass Effect Andromeda, but basically Andromeda fell on its face.
What, graphically as well, with the faces in the weird animations?
They did work to correct that to a degree, but then there's a good story in Mass Effect Andromeda, but they didn't continue to develop it, and they released no story-based DLC because nobody was playing the multiplayer and buying the in-game stuff for the multiplayer.
See,
so I think that we're really going to see this shift. I'm just saying it. I'm just making the point one last time. I think we're going to see this shift away from the single-player experiences, or if we want these big single-player experiences that are like Dragon Age Inquisition, where it's a 100-hour game on a single playthrough, you're going to be paying a lot more money than $60 for a one-time purchase.
You could call it a shifty key. Okay, I'll see myself out.
So there was something you said, Jim, that I don't agree 100% with. Which was sort of the point I was trying to make, but I got carried away and ended up just repeating what Vic was saying. I'm sorry about that. But the thing is, with all of that considered, I don't think Battlefront 2 is a well-made game, in a way.
How so?
Fight.
I'm getting there. Like, combat-wise, it might be good. Graphically, it might be good. But, like, there are a few maps out of the things I've seen and all that. Vic?
What?
Anyway.
No, I was saying because you disagree with... Never mind.
Oh, okay.
I saw the comment. World War II just started.
We're having people discussing nukes, for real. So when you post that kind of stuff, I get scared.
Right.
Okay?
I forgot. Sorry.
And
Vic
sorry
just
to the
posted
audience again.
On the chat. Well,
I
World
just
War
pulled
III just started, and I was like, oh my fucking...
I just pulled a Hawaii. Sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Anyway,
Too
so
soon?
the thing
Topical.
is... the game itself, like combat-wise and all that, that's good, okay. But there are very few maps. I feel like very few characters, heroes or ground units or whatever. If you compare Battlefront 2, the current Battlefront 2, with the old Battlefront 2, there were a shit ton of maps. A bunch of other characters and a bunch of heroes too.
I'm not so sure there were. I mean, there might. I think you could. I don't know that there are. I'd have to sit down and look at that because I played the old Battlefront 2 quite a friggin' lot. I mean, the old Battlefront 2 I think had a better campaign, but all the campaign was basically multiplayer maps put into a linear single-player experience. While in this game, while the story is not, for the single-player component, is not stellar, I don't think it's going to be winning any awards, it's still very different from the multiplayer. I don't think that have you even played this game, Luís? I'm going to be an asshole here for a second. Have you played the game?
No, that's okay. Like,
so I don't really
I'll fully admit that I haven't played the game yet. Hold on, Tyler.
He's seen a bunch of stuff, basically.
Yeah, I've watched a bunch of videos, like gameplay without commentary, gameplay with commentary, defending both sides of the conversation. So I will admit that perhaps my points here should be taken with a grain of salt, maybe a truck of salt. I don't know. But there's still one more thing, like relating to what Vic said about games lasting for not too long. I feel like the old Battlefront 2, even without considering the campaign, just playing with bots, for example, there were a lot of maps. There was a lot of stuff you could do in that game. Whereas with the current Battlefront 2, there's only so much you can do until you need to resort to grinding to make the game last longer. So
I don't even know if you're listening to yourself. Look, all right, there's quite a lot in single player. You can set up whole games with bots. They even actually have a whole section of this game that's single player challenges if you want to go that route and unlock special loot crates for specific characters and classes. So it's an unfounded statement what you're saying. And the thing is that this game looks like Star Wars, it sounds like Star Wars, it feels like Star Wars. Are there 30 maps? No, there's not 30 maps, but I don't know that you need 30 maps to have a good experience. I mean, EA tried to craft something that was, I say EA, really it's Criterion, who tried to craft something, Criterion and DICE tried to craft something that was a very tight game that felt very good, and they've succeeded in that. That's the thing, is that aside from the leveling system in multiplayer with the randomness of the loot boxes, this is a damn good game, and I don't think that people want to admit that because it has EA's sticker on it.
Damn.
All right.
Luís, get shot down.
The single player stuff, I will admit, I don't know much about the single player stuff, so sure, I stand corrected. But as long as it's not like the first Battlefront, for example, how many maps were there? Like
there's fewer maps in the first Battlefront than there are in this one by a long shot.
Right. Well, that's an improvement already, I guess. But still,
my god. Sorry, I just love this conversation because you started off saying the opposite, and now it's gone around.
No, I'm not saying the opposite, man. I'm just saying it's a start. Battlefront 1, the new Battlefront 1, sucked, I think, because there was not enough there. One I played. And Battlefront 2, I'll admit I don't know everything about it, but from what I've seen, I wasn't really convinced that it was a good game. What Jim's saying, there are some new stuff, some information that I haven't had access to. So, but still, I think they could have packed more stuff into it without having to resort to grinding to make the game last longer. Or to make people spend more on it, which I think ultimately is the goal here.
I mean, I say, if you're absolutely right that EA's goal in this is that they've backed themselves into a corner where they have a shit business model of we can't make enough money because EA is so monolithic and they put up the money up front to publish this game. They had to put a bunch of money into this game to get 3 well-known developers. They had to pay them up front to develop this game, and then EA's got to make its money on the back end. And they're not getting a very big percentage of each game sale because a lot of that goes to the retailers and has to go back to basically covering the costs that they paid for publishing the game. So, again, they've put themselves in a bad situation. And I don't think that they, again, with this whole, they've made their decisions, they got to deal with it. And I think that they deserve basically what's happened to them. But to say something like this game is incomplete in some way is incorrect. I mean, really, the issue comes down to the business model, not the game itself. And I think that a lot of people aren't drawing the difference in that line.
It's like earlier I said as well, when I was about to rag on FIFA, it's not the game itself. I mean, yeah, it's not coded properly, but as a business, they could have gone back in and fixed that. But I still gave shout outs to the amount of research they had to do and, the graphic design and all that, whereas some people used to rag on them just because, it's the same game, just release a year later. It's not quite. Oh, shit, sorry, I just hit the microphone. Sorry about that, guys.
Technical failure.
I will edit that.
Did the EA assassins get you?
But, yeah, cease and desist.
EA assassins.
But I don't want to make this podcast all about EA, because there was one other thing DLC related that recently has kind of broke my heart. Were you guys aware of the fighting game, which is like a bunch of franchises smushed together, and they're using multiple characters from these places?
Well, what's it called?
Blazblue Cross Tag.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Where it's...
Is it Blaze or Blaz?
I think I've only just ever called it Blazblue.
Okay.
It could be Blaz, I don't know. Not actually a massive... I've heard of the game, but I never played it. I played Guilty Gear.
I beg to differ. I think it's Blaze. Okay, so you can all fuck off.
Blazblue?
Blazblue.
Blazblue.
But multiple characters from Blazblue, Under Night, Persona, and I think it's specifically Persona 4 and Ruby, which got me really excited, of course.
Where's Yang? God damn it.
So yesterday they announced that Blake is in the game as a DLC character, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, because they just know that I'm going to pay that DLC to get that character. I know it's wrong.
Going to be DLC? I thought it was going to be in the main game already.
No, 20 characters they've announced are in the game. 20 characters are going to be DLC additional.
Fuck.
And Blake is the first one that was announced. And I was like, they know how to speak to me. Because they just know that I'm going to be tempted to buy that character.
Well, let me ask you this, Tyler, because I don't know anything about Blazblue and all this. How much is Blake going to cost?
It has not been announced, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
They just, on the Japanese advert, the acronym DLC come up, and everyone was like, shit.
Yeah,
so,
well, I mean, it's one of these things of...
If it was like $1, I'd be like, take my money.
It depends on how how much of a money grab this is. If it's like $1, what does the game cost itself? What's the base game cost?
I can imagine it's just going to be an average cost. I don't think it's been announced yet.
And so it's going to be a full $60 game then?
Maybe. We don't know yet. It could come out half price.
What have the ones in the past been? Do you know?
They've come out full price.
Okay, so we'll work on that hypothetical if it's coming out full price. So if it's coming out $60, you get 20 characters, and they say, hey, you know what, we're going to have 20 other characters. We don't know what the price of them is going to be. I mean, that comes down to, is still the game going to be fun? Are you still going to enjoy it without these characters? Like, if you couldn't have Blake, would you still have a good time playing this game?
Probably.
Right.
But I feel like it would be a little bit more intriguing with Blake in there.
Right. Well, the issue with the loot boxes in Battlefront 2 is that the only real way to develop any of your characters or classes is to buy these loot boxes. So at the time that they cost real money, they don't anymore, but at the time that they did cost real money, that was the only way to move them forward. I mean, you get these things called crafting materials, which will allow you to customize your characters to an extent, but you don't get crafting materials nearly as fast as you get credits. And credits are what you used for the loot boxes. And the loot boxes are completely random. So, I mean, in your situation, it's like you can still play a character, but you can just choose to buy that character. While with Battlefront, it's you can buy a loot box and you might get what you want.
Yeah, it's close to gambling because you're not guaranteed to get what you want. Whereas with this, you're definitely going to get the character, I think. Again, the game's still in development. They might backpedal through this because
sure, they might.
They are getting a lot of.
We are working hypotheticals.
They are getting a lot of question marks thrown their way because a lot of people that were very they were on board with this idea of mixing all these franchises. Now they're like, yeah, we'll be charging extra for this, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
So there is something I'd like to take to get your opinion on, like all of you. Personally, I'm sort of against most DLC just out of out of principle, because it's like I feel a lot of the time it's stuff that could very well be in the base game, but then they just take it apart and then sell it to make a little more profit on it. And
like
then sometimes
Capcom.
yeah, exactly. I was just about to mention them. And then sometimes you get like something amazing like in The Witcher 3. I don't know how it's going to work with Blazblue, whatever.
Blazblue.
Yeah, Belladonna. I don't know how it's going to work. I had never heard of this franchise up until you mentioned it, Tyler. But let's take Capcom, for example. I think it was Street Fighter V that they had like all of the characters in the game already. But if you wanted to unlock some of them, you had to pay for it.
You had to like get DLC.
That was already on your game.
Yeah.
Like,
Something
I don't
that's
like.
consuming your storage device. Like, it's there already, you know?
You're not downloading anything. You're just you're enabling the disc to read that there's another character there.
I feel like that is such a dick move, you know?
Yeah.
When developers already have something in... Hold on, before you start agreeing with me, guys. It might be an unpopular opinion, I realize that, but if a developer already knows something can be part of the game, they already have that shit developed, you know, why not just put it on the base game already instead of taking it apart and then selling it for more profit? For example, if you already, I don't know which characters were in Street Fighter, fuck it. Let's say if you already have Dawson programmed, developed and all that, why make people pay for it instead of just putting it in the base game? From a business point of view, it makes perfect sense. People will buy, they will give us money. That's good, right? Okay, but it's a shitty practice, you know? And then if you, like, it may start getting a bit more unpopular if you go to stuff like, okay, storyline, you know, side quests, or in-game items. Why not just put all that shit in the base game already if you already have that planned and developed, you know?
I'm going to lose all integrity here by just pointing out to the developers of Blazblue, I think it's Arc Systems. You have full access to my wallet for putting Blake on DLC. I do not care that you've done it. I'm going to buy her anyway. The rest of the characters, I don't know anything about, so fuck it. But
I don't care.
charge how much you want.
I was going to buy this game specifically for Blake. Not even Ruby, just Blake.
They knew that the best girl people would actually give money to.
Isn't Ruby Isn't Ruby already in the game though?
Ruby, Wise, and Blake.
Ruby and Weiss are in the game. Blake is DLC.
Interesting.
Oh, that I didn't
So
know.
they put the two most popular characters in the main game.
I don't know if Wise is that popular, to be honest.
I really don't think she
I don't know. I know Jim...
I think it's Ruby and Yang. If I had to bet money on it, I would put Ruby and Yang.
Yang hasn't been mentioned by them yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's going to be another DLC character down the
I
line.
think they're going to put Team Rube there. Right?
Just Rube.
It's rubbed in, it's not Rube.
It just amazes me that Rooster Teeth... I think I might have mentioned this before on podcast 1.0, but I don't understand why Rooster Teeth didn't make a fighting game like this anyway. Like a Street Fighter-esque thing with all the teams. They totally should have done that instead of Grim Eclipse.
But maybe...
But that's the thing is developing a game from the ground up and balancing that is not an easy task.
Oh, I know. I've seen some broken ass games.
That's why so many of these companies, the developers, get a publisher because they need somebody to actually pay for basically the funding up front so that they can afford to make a game.
Yeah,
true.
And it's a real effort. Like I kept up with Oddworld Inhabitants when they sort of started back again to release New and Tasty. And it was like, first of all, to get the funds without having to count on anyone else, they were like making HD packs of their old games and putting those games on Steam and GOG and all that, trying to get people to buy the older games so they could have funds to use and so make a new game, which was New and Tasty. Same thing, they apparently invested a lot of the profits on New and Tasty to make Soulstorm, like the remake of their second game. So like apparently they're gonna do that for a while until they can have the money or like the story the way they want it to make the new games and tell new stories, or like newer stories. Because, for example, Soulstorm is going to be a sort of this different take on the second game, keeping the same story but like putting out details that they had to leave out the last time, something like that. But anyway, I understand that it takes a lot financially and in terms of time and manpower and all that. Maybe Rooster Teeth will be at that point in a few years' time. I don't know. Maybe they'll introduce enough new characters to Ruby so they can make to the point they could make a fighting game. Who knows?
They got the characters there. Like they could just use all the team members or teachers or villains and just put them in, But Jim was right, because I think he was talking more about the lines of like balancing that shit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And with some fighting games, I've seen like Skullgirls or there are other games out there that weren't considered for competitive play because it wasn't considered balanced, I believe, for a little while.
Right.
I got onto the bandwagon when it was in stuff like I'm trying to think of what it was called now, and my mind's gone blank. But I got into the know when it was a competitive game, like Guilty Gear and stuff like that, and Street Fighter and Tekken. So forgive me if I'm wrong. That could have come out my ass. But to balance those kind of games, Jesus Christ, it must be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, my issue about having DLC already in the main game is it's like, if the DLC is already in the main game, then you've already developed it. You've already put the time into it. You've already put the balancing into it, and you're just basically putting it behind a paywall just to put it behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Like, it's something different if you think about Mass Effect 3's like Citadel DLC. Like, that was something that they did way after the main game had come out, after Mass Effect 3's controversy had all blown over. That's a whole different like send-off for you and your characters and these relationships you've built up over the course of the 3 games. It's not required in any way to beat the game. It's just a fun little side adventure that you can have.
Yeah, it wasn't content that was withdrawn from what you paid for. It wasn't just hidden away from you and in the disc. It was built afterwards.
Yeah, that's my issue, is that you basically you've as a company, you've already put the time and the money into developing something, and then you're choosing to put it behind a paywall just because. Like, the money's already gone. You haven't developed anything new. You developed it as part of the main game. You just chose not to include it in the main game because whatever business practices were that required it. I don't like that at all. I'm okay with a DLC that's not required, that's not included in the code of the main game. I mean, if the bits are already there, if the code already exists, then you, so far as I'm concerned, you really don't have an excuse at all.
I also
say about it.
Yeah, I also kind of wonder, like, with the whole situation with like Blazblue. I know I keep on going back to them, but it does make me think. An easy way that they could resolve this is that they just say, you know what, okay, we're going to bump up the price of the whole game, have everyone available, but you have to unlock them. Like, in the old days, like in Tekken, you had to unlock characters by playing the game. If they said, oh, you need to play 100 matches as Ruby to see Blake...
Isn't that what I said earlier? No,
yeah. I know. It was like, I'm just agreeing with you.
Back in your day.
Yeah, back in my day. I'm just messing with you.
Back in your day. But, like, I feel like that's a way they could recover from bad press if they say, okay, it's either DLC or a more expensive game with everybody on it.
Right. Well, that's really what this conversation comes down to, is we need to figure out what's really the conversation here, which is, if games are getting this expensive to make, can we, as the consumer, expect these companies to stay in business and stay functioning at $60 per game? If not, then we need to probably adjust our expectations for what constitutes a good game for $60.
Yeah. I mean, Doki Doki Literature Club was really good, and I paid nothing for that.
Yeah, but that's also like, I would bet you money that is a small company in Japan who just slapped this together with paying some artists. Because anime artists in Japan are a dime a dozen.
I think it was just a small US-based team. That it was like 3 or 4 people.
Well, then I'm glad I didn't bet you money. The point is, it's 3 or 4 people, right?
Hey, Tyler
Yeah.
could have bought DLC with that money, James.
Right? Yeah. You could have bought
You
a bought
you
a
suck,
character in Blazblue. So
Yeah, I wonder which one it would have been, knowing my history.
Yeah, probably wise.
She's available to you. Have you not been paying attention?
no, but Weiss is available to no one. Haven't you noticed?
Vic, we're sorry that we didn't let you in on the conversations. I just noticed the silence.
Well,
Yeah, what happened to you, Vic? Are you alive?
yeah, I'm
Are you
alive.
okay?
Baby.
No, just a
Are you
couple
bored?
comments. No, I'm just a couple comments.
Please do.
One is I know I said earlier it annoyed me that you have to unlock like Luke and Darth Vader. What annoys me is the amount of time they expect.
Yeah.
Like, not the idea that the game comes with, grinding is okay. I get it. It makes sense. In some circumstances, it adds to the game, but it comes to a point where it's too much. And what EA had set, the original EA set that they had set for Luke and Darth Vader was ridiculous.
Mhm.
Like, I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
you should not have to play a game that long.
How long was it? Because I
It was
didn't pay much.
it was like 60 hours.
I was about to say it was
60,
another
80
60,
hours.
or it depends on your payout. That's the thing. 'Cause at the
Oh.
low
Yeah.
end, I think it was 60 hours. At the high end, it was 100 hours.
Gosh damn, because
So it's like, holy shit! Like I've got I
Yeah.
think 65 hours into the game now, so I would have one of them if they hadn't changed the price. You
So
know?
that's the thing. So I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That idea was wrong.
That is ridiculous. Like, I don't mind grinding like maybe 10 hours. Like 10, 12 hours, that's fine for a character.
because
Maybe a little bit
that way
more.
it's like a medal of honor. Like, I've
Yeah,
done this. I played this game. I
exactly.
get to be this character.
Exactly.
And it's enough that if you take like half of a single day of your weekend, you can do it.
Mhm.
You know?
It's not going to take me. It's not like I have to quit my job or quit school and go full time.
It's not World of Warcraft vanilla.
Vic,
Yeah.
why are you quitting your job? Well, sorry, boss. I gotta unlock
You gotta
Luke.
get Luke.
I gotta get Luke.
I
Sorry,
need
sir.
non-PTSD Luke.
Yeah,
I need the
right.
Luke that I remember that I love.
That's a totally different conversation. That
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
gonna
we
go
can make a
into
whole
right
nother
now.
podcast about that.
So let me clarify on that one. Number 2, Jim, you made a good point in the sense like games are getting more expensive. The thing is that video games in general have always been it's been an expensive hobby. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So it doesn't matter what route you go. If you go PC, if you go Xbox, if you go PS4, even if you go Switch, like, it's an expensive hobby. You're putting down a lot of money, just in terms of console, in terms of how you want to play. And even a cheap PC build is going to run you a good couple $100. So and the thing is something is going to eventually need to give in regards to cost. I understand the idea that video games prices would have to increase, especially like increase in the idea where it's not going to increase to like $80 and you're getting a Destiny 1 type game. Like, increase to 80 hours and the $80 and the initial gameplay is like 400 hours or something. Or that's what you can get up to. You guys are following what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Apologize,
Yeah,
I'm a little wonky right now.
No, I guess it will
No,
have to.
So basically, something has to give in regards to the pricing, because you keep pushing video game prices up, and these new consoles, like, you can get them cheap, especially if they're the older generation, but you're still gonna have to wait a year and a half, 2 years to get that cheap. Something's got to give when it comes to it's either the price of the console or the price or the whatever you're using. I'm just going to use console as a universal term. Or it's got to be the price of the game. And like I've seen arguments with people saying like, well, when you go see a movie, you pay X amount of money, which means per hour you're spending this amount of money to be entertained. With video games, it's technically video games are a cheaper form of entertainment, but they don't put in the idea that, well, you need a console, you need a PC, you need parts. If you play too many games and you don't have enough hardware space, you need the extra gigabytes, or the storage space. So video games are becoming more universal, but the price range is going to put people away from it. Whether or not that price range is due to the game itself or the console. And like that's another big issue that I don't think anybody's talking about is like I understand price is important, especially to keep these companies in operation. And like if they're a good company, I want them in operation. Like if you're gonna put out a good game, keep doing it and I will pay. Like that's where I'm at with CD Projekt Red. Like they could release Cyberpunk 2077 and it'd be $100 and I'd be like sold, done. But I know what I'm getting from them. Like I know I'm gonna get a good game, and I know I'm gonna pay the money. The money that I'm paying went to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man hours that they took their time with this game. So I'm not gonna be upset. That's the thing for me, especially when like I look at my bank account and like I'm somebody who doesn't have a lot of disposable income at the moment. When I'm looking at these video games, like, yeah, I would love to buy a video game, but I can't afford the $60.
Yeah.
Like, I have to go on sale. I have to wait until everything's on sale.
Wait for Steam.
Wait for Black Friday, and it gets very frustrating and very, like, you're trying to avoid spoilers all the time, and then 90% of the time the game gets spoiled for you anyway, so it's just like, it's frustrating.
And I'm on the same boat.
That's my comment with the money.
With the whole thing of like waiting for sales and stuff. And the problem is that by the time a sale hits, if you're waiting to play a game that is exclusively multiplayer or has a huge focus on multiplayer, you'll have missed the boat. You know, it's like, I don't know, waiting for one of the Battlefield games to go on sale, and then by the time the sale arrives and you can buy the game, people have already moved on to the next thing.
I think that's the gamble that they have. Like, if you're going to exclusively make like a game that's reliant on multiplayer gameplay, then them's are the ropes. They really are. Like, it's only got explicitly a certain amount of life to it because of
and
the online life.
Shortened. Like, yeah.
Overwatch.
Well, I think that's because people are constantly craving new experiences. Like people don't want to play one game eternally for half a decade necessarily. I think that it's fairly uncommon. I think that I think that we are like all of us have a game that we love and that we will constantly go back to. I mean, mine is, Star Wars: The Old Republic as far as an MMO goes. It's the only MMO I've ever really dedicated time to. It's 6 years old and it's not what it was, but it's still a damned good game. But I don't think that you're going to see that by and large as a kind of a cultural thing. I think that we have a very consumerist mentality in general as a culture, and so we get easily bored with something that is not new, right? That not everybody else is a part of. And I think that's part of it is that human beings want to be social, even among us gamers. So we want to be playing games with each other that are new that everybody else around us is playing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that is an issue that goes beyond the constraints of the video game industry.
That's society's fault. How dare you, society?
Yeah.
So we've been going for a while now, so I think we should wrap up soon. Just before we do that, I'd like to clarify a point I made earlier. I don't want to push misinformation to people, especially when it comes to Oddworld, because I really appreciate those guys. Yeah.
Wrong.
I'm getting I'm starting to get sick of that expression. But anyway, so just to clarify what Soulstorm is.
Shithole.
Fake news.
Shut up, Vic. Just to clarify what Soulstorm is, and it might be an interesting topic actually to talk about remakes and reboots in a in the next episode or something. I said that it was like sort of retelling the same story with some added details and something. So I decided to go to their site and see what they have to say. So it's just 2 sentences. There's a bigger thing, but anyway. So they're calling it a fresh narrative, a complete story retake inspired by our original tale. A big visual and cinematic leap aiming to break new ground for Oddworld. Which is something that, like, it's interesting when it comes to reboots and remakes, because sometimes people just try to invent something too new and end up losing character, but sometimes they can manage to maintain the essence of the whole thing, you know? So the question is, will it retain that essence or not? You know, given what they're saying, what they have shown so far, maybe it will. But anyway, I think that perhaps is a topic for another episode.
Just a quick comment on that. They seem faithful from what they've done already.
From what I've seen, it's like it's interesting because it's looking at the videos and all this stuff they have been releasing. It's like, oh, I remember things this way when I played this game as a kid, and then I go back to the game. It's like, oh wait, it's like they're working with sort of like our memories. I don't know. It's difficult to explain, but they seem to be doing a good job and a faithful job.
Nostalgia porn. That's basically it.
Yeah, maybe there's some nostalgia points there. But when I asked like, will they be able to pull it off and all that, I didn't mean just Oddworld. I mean like companies in general, and they decide to remake, reboot stuff. But I'm pretty excited about the new Oddworld game. I think they'll do a good job. But anyway, maybe that's a topic for another episode. So before we wrap up, is there any other segment we should do, Tyler? Because I can't quite remember.
Oh, fuck it. We could just say goodbye. I mean, this is the pilot episode, so...
I like to say goodbye and you all suck balls.
Good to know.
Expect another like 10 pilot episodes until we get the hang of the new format.
Let's just have pilot point
But, hey,
zero.
If there's any sort of topic you'd like us to discuss, or like if something we say you agree and you'd like to tell us you agree, or if you want to tell us that we're wrong and you hate us, please don't
I'm
hate
not
us.
wrong.
Please address all complaints to Jim Servac.
Yep. You
Yes.
can find me at jim@servac.com. You can email me there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not
That
on
is-
those, I swear.
With a YouTube comment or something. Anyway, thank
God.
you everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Is it watching
Bye.
or listening?
Bye!
You know,
Listening mostly.
I mean, we're not.
If
It's
you're
not like we
reading
have
this
our
episode-
faces.
I don't know who took the time to type it out, but you know, thanks.
Shout out to
I
you,
am not
bro.
giving this subtitles. Like, you can pay
No one
me.
is.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.